Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Saturday, August 13th, 2022. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Helps us out a ton. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comment section below. Now, if you're looking for my MLB best bets, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Of course, I'm always running my $15 MLB best bet, so check it out at Pick Dawgz Premium. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Saturday, August 13th. First up, we see a doubleheader between the Atlanta Braves and the Miami Marlins. Now, like we've seen all season long with doubleheaders, the pitching matchups are definitely subject to change. Right now, we see Ian Anderson and Jesus Luzardo as the starters for Game 1. Spencer Strider, the starter for the Braves in Game 2. No official starter for the Marlins, but we could certainly see that change. We've seen plenty of pitchers. We could see Anderson and Luzardo move to Game 2. We could see a number of things, so just make sure you're staying up to date. I'm going to go over the starting pitchers and their matchups against the opposing lineups. I'll give a lean on for Game 1 and Game 2, but definitely could change if there is some starting pitching movement. But Ian Anderson's faced the Marlins quite a bit this year, 16 and 2/3 innings. He has struggled against them, a 5.4 ERA, 17 hits, 11 total runs, 10 of those being earned, 3 homers, 8 walks allowed against the Marlins. The opponent's batting average, .262, so around league average. And Anderson was sent down to the minors because of his struggles in 2022. We saw his last start at the major league level against the Mets wasn't a good one, even though the Braves won that game pretty handedly. Their offense was the reason because of that, or behind that. 4 2/3 innings, 7 hits, 4 earned runs, and 4 walks for Anderson against the Mets. And he was sent down to the minors, now back up here for this doubleheader. But I think the Marlins can score a few runs on him. On the other side, Jesus Luzardo's pitching pretty well. We saw a shutout performance in his last start against the Cubs. 7 innings shutout baseball, 6 strikeouts. He's pitching really well back from the injured list in his first 2 outings. Now, those were against the Reds and the Cubs, 2 of the weaker lineups in the National League. But the Braves lineup against lefties hasn't been the strongest in the last 30 days, especially when you look at what they did at the beginning of the year against lefties. So I think Luzardo can pitch well. I think the Marlins compete in this one. I'll take the Marlins plus 1.5 against Anderson. Now, in Game 2, Spencer Strider has been money this year for Atlanta. He's got to be up there for the favorite to win Rookie of the Year in the National League. And, you look at his numbers on the road, a little bit higher ERA, but still striking out a ton of batters. I think the Marlins struggled to get to him in this one. So I'm going to take the Braves in Game 2. So give me the Marlins plus 1.5 in Game 1 and the Braves money line in Game 2. But again, this is all subject to change. Next up, we see the Cleveland Guardians taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. No official lineup for this one. We see that with a few games on Saturday's card, unfortunately. But right now, we see Tristan McKenzie and Mitch White as your starting pitchers. We'll see if either of those are scratched by the time this game starts. But with McKenzie and White, I do think the Guardians can compete in this game. I'm going to take them here on the run line, getting 1.5 runs, and put a little bit on the money line as well. Tristan McKenzie pitching well. You look at his last start against the Houston Astros of all teams, one of the better lineups in baseball. McKenzie went 8 innings, a shutout ball, 2 hits, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts, and the Guardians won that game 1-0. Mitch White hasn't been striking out a lot of batters recently. He only had 2 Ks and 4 2/3 in his Blue Jays debut against the Twins, and he struggled in that game. 6 hits, 3 earned runs, a walk in that one. In his last 15 2/3 innings, only 7 strikeouts, so I am concerned with that. When you look at the Guardians lineup against righties in the last 30 days, their team OPS is high, and their strikeout rate is very, very low. In fact, the lowest in the league at 17.8%, so they're going to make you work as a starting pitcher. They're not going to miss. They're not going to whiff a lot, and I think Mitch White could be hurt by that. I'm going to take the Cleveland Guardians here, sprinkle a little bit on the money line, and put a little bit on the run line as well. Next up, we see the Tampa Bay Rays hosting the Baltimore Orioles. Now, we don't have an official lineup for this one either. We should see Spencer Watkins and Shane McClanahan on the mound. We saw the same exact pitching matchup back on July 26th. It was the first start for both of these guys after the All-Star break. McClanahan pitched well, 7 innings, 2 earned runs. Now, both of those runs were given up via solo home runs, but 7 strikeouts. He gave the Rays a really good chance to win that game. Spencer Watkins struggled a bit, 5 1/3 innings, 10 hits, 3 earned runs, a home run as well. But the Rays bullpen blew that game in the end, and the Orioles actually won 5-3. I don't necessarily think that's going to be the case here, especially at Tropicana Field. McClanahan has struggled after the All-Star break, but I still think he is one of the better pitchers in the American League, and I don't really love this Orioles lineup on the road and against a left-handed pitcher. We've seen him do a lot of damage against righties, a lot of damage at Camden Yards, but on the road here, I just don't really trust their bats to get to McClanahan. I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Rays here on the run line. I think they do a little bit better with runners in scoring position this time around rather than what they did in Camden Yards against Watkins the first time. Give me the Rays minus 1.5. Next up, we see the Chicago Cubs taking on the Cincinnati Reds, 6:40 Eastern start time for this one. Now, this is a really funny game. I think this is as close as a coin flip as you can get in a major league game, and it's kind of crazy, kind of eerie to see how many similarities these two teams have in this matchup. We know the Reds and the Cubs, both disappointing years thus far. Both teams were sellers at the deadline. Both teams have very similar records. The Cubs 46 and 65, 22 and 31 on the road. The Reds 44 and 67, 24 and 33 at home. So very, very similar records there. When you look at both of these starting pitchers, Adrian Sampson and Graham Ashcraft, Adrian Sampson 3.83 ERA, the xFIP a little bit higher at 4.2 plus. When you look at Graham Ashcraft, 3.94 ERA, xFIP above 4 as well. Very similar starters. They don't really earn a lot of strikeouts, but they also don't walk a lot of guys, and they don't give up a lot of home runs. In fact, Sampson has a .91 home runs per 9, Ashcraft .90. So very similar. You look at both of these teams' logos, they're both Red Seas. So, I mean, to me, this is as close as you can get when you can keep going here. When you look at the numbers against right-handed pitching offensively, the Reds are 21st in both team OPS and isolated power in the last 30 days. Chicago Cubs 19th in team OPS, a little bit worse at isolated power at 26th. When you look at both of these bullpens in terms of projected WAR, the Reds are 29th, the Cubs are 30th. So I think these are two of the worst bullpens in baseball. Two very similar starting pitchers, two lineups that are pretty similar as well. So this is as coin flip as it gets, and if it's going to be a 50-50 shot, I'd rather have the plus money on my side. You're getting plus 105 here right now with the Cubs on the money line. So I say you're getting 5 cents of value. I'll take it, but if the line moves and the Cubs are no longer getting that price, I'm passing on the game altogether. I'll lean with the Cubs here on the money line, which should be, it's a pretty interesting game. You don't really see this too often. Give me the Cubs on the money line. Next up, we see the San Diego Padres taking on the Washington Nationals. Yu Darvish and Anibal Sanchez are your starters. Now, unlike the last game I just went over, this to me is a little bit more one-sided. I like the Padres here on the run line. Anibal Sanchez, I thought he had a pretty good matchup against the Cubs last time out, but he struggled yet again, giving up another 2 home runs, another 4 earned runs, 5 innings pitched, 7 hits against the Cubbies, and he is just not pitching well in 2022. I don't think he's a viable starting pitcher right now. 0-5 with a 7.56 ERA through his first 5 starts of the year, giving up at least 1 home run in all of those 5 starts, giving up at least 2 walks in those starts as well. And I can't trust him in this spot either against a really tough San Diego Padres lineup. Now, Yu Darvish, I expect him to give up a few runs in this start, but I think he's good enough here for San Diego to coast to victory. Give me the Padres on the run line, laying the 1.5 runs. Next up, we see the Detroit Tigers taking on the Chicago White Sox. Lucas Giolito and Matt Manning are your projected starters. I know a lot of you are not really happy with the White Sox right now, and I don't blame you. They've been disappointing in the favorite role this year and as of late, but I do like them in this spot on the run line. I do think Lucas Giolito has improved his game quite a bit recently. When you look at his last 10 innings, his last 2 starts, 3 earned runs, 12 strikeouts, and those 2 games were both White Sox wins and run line covers, 9-2 and 8-2. And you look at Matt Manning on the other side, he's got a good ERA on paper, 2.25, but that's only through 20 innings. And when you look at his xFIP and his FIP, 4.27 FIP, 4.83 xFIP. He doesn't strike out a lot of guys, only 5.4 Ks per 9. The walks are a problem for him already to begin this season. And I do think the White Sox can get to him for a few runs here. And when you look at the team OPS numbers against righties in the last 30 days, Detroit Tigers ranked 30th in the league, while the White Sox ranked 10th in the league. So I do think the White Sox have the advantage offensively. The bullpens are pretty similar. I think the Tigers' bullpen has been solid this year, but I also am not giving up on the White Sox pen. I think the starting pitching matchup goes to the White Sox pretty heavily. So give me the Chicago White Sox here on the run line at home. In our next matchup, we see an interleague game between the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Kansas City Royals. The lefty Andrew Heaney facing off with the right-hander Brad Keller. Now, Brad Keller's been inconsistent this year. He's coming off a pretty good start against the Red Sox, but I do worry about him quite a bit in this particular matchup. The Dodgers have just done so much damage against right-handed pitching in the last month and really all season long. But when you look in the last 30 days especially, the second lowest strikeout rate, one of the higher walk rates, the number 1 team OPS, the 3rd highest isolated power total. This Dodgers lineup is very scary if you're a righty, and really if you're a lefty as well recently. So I think Keller is in trouble. He doesn't really strike out a lot of guys. He does give up a lot of walks, giving up at least 3 walks in 3 of his last 4 starts. So I do think Keller gets hit here. I think the Royals bullpen gets hit as well. But on the other side, Andrew Heaney's got that .64 ERA. I don't think it's going to hold up for too much longer. We've seen him give up a couple of unearned runs recently. The last start against the Padres, 3 unearned runs in 4 2/3 inning, only 3 strikeouts. The Royals against left-handed pitching have been pretty good. You look at their team OPS numbers, ranked 10th in the league in the last 30 days with a 763 team OPS against lefties. They don't really strike out much as a team, and I think they can get a few runs on Heaney and get this total over. I'm going to take the over in this Dodgers-Royals matchup. Lance McCullers Jr. makes his season debut with the Astros here against the Oakland Athletics, 7:10 Eastern in Houston. No official lineup for this one as the A's have not announced a starter. Now, we saw Lance McCullers make a few rehab starts in the minor leagues, and he did struggle quite a bit, giving up a lot of base hits. Now, he was able to strike out some batters, but the walks and base hits were a little worrisome to see. I think it's going to take a few starts at the major league level for McCullers to settle in and be that number 2, number 3 starter that the Astros really need him to be in the postseason. When you got Verlander, Valdez, and then McCullers as your top 3 in the rotation, pretty dangerous starting rotation, if I say so myself. And you look at the other side, the Oakland Athletics, probably going with a bullpen game here. I don't really trust that against this really deadly Houston Astros lineup. I think both teams can score some runs. I like the Houston Astros to win this game in the end, but we're going to expect them to be big favorites because McCullers Jr. is on the mound, because the Astros are at home against one of the weaker teams in the American League. So I don't think there's a lot of value on the Houston run line or money line, but I'm just going to take the over in this game, which should be a higher scoring contest. Aaron Nola and Jacob deGrom, the Phillies and Mets here at Citi Field. What a great pitching matchup we have here. Aaron Nola, 3.17 ERA, a 2.24 ERA on the road this year. Much better numbers in terms of strikeouts, 86 Ks and 76 and a third innings pitched on the road. And coming off a sharp start at home against the Nationals, 6 innings, 1 earned run, 5 Ks. But Jacob deGrom, I still think when he's healthy, he's the best starting pitcher in baseball, in my opinion. Last start, we saw him go 5 perfect innings against the Atlanta Braves. Then he gave up a walk to Adrianza and a 2-run homer to Dansby Swanson. Put a little bit of a stain on that game, but still, 5 2/3 innings, 2 runs, 12 strikeouts from deGrom in his second start back from injury. That is pretty impressive. I think he pitches well here. I like the under in this game, but the New York Mets, they're really tough to beat at home, and especially with deGrom's on the mound. I think they find a few runs on Nola. I think their bullpen is a little bit more trustworthy, so I'm going to take the New York Mets here on the money line and lean towards the under as well. Next up, we see the Milwaukee Brewers taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. Corbin Burnes and Adam Wainwright are their starters for this one. Great pitching matchup we have here. A lot of good matchups for Saturday's card. Corbin Burnes has had a lot of success against the St. Louis Cardinals lineup this season. He's faced them quite a bit already. When you look at the 14 innings pitched, he's only given up 4 hits, no earned runs, no home runs, only 3 walks, 21 strikeouts, an opponent's batting average of 85. It's .085 in 2 games. He has just been lights out against the Cardinals, a 0.00 ERA. On the other side, Adam Wainwright's faced this Brewers lineup already, and he has struggled against Milwaukee this season. When you look at his starts against the Brewers, 14 innings as well, 25 base hits, 12 runs total, 11 of those being earned, 4 homers, 4 walks, 16 Ks, a .373 opponent's batting average against the Brew Crew. That's a 7.07 ERA. I got to take the Brewers here. You're getting a really good price with Milwaukee. I know they're on the road, but Corbin Burnes has pitched well on the road this year. 2.01 ERA away from home, 71 Ks and 62 2/3 innings, a 175 opponent's batting average. Burnes is really tough to beat. Wainwright's been tough to beat at home himself, but against the Yankees, he struggled quite a bit at Busch Stadium. I got to take the Brewers lineup here against right-handed pitching. I think they're good enough to grab a win. Give me the Milwaukee Brewers here on the money line. Next up, we see the New York Yankees taking on the Boston Red Sox. Frankie Montas and Cutter Crawford on the mound. This is a tough game for me. I think both of these pitchers are coming off rough starts. Frankie Montas this year has not been good on the road. We saw that against the Cardinals in his Yankees debut. He's got a 6.21 ERA now on the road this year, and he struggled mightily in that Cardinals start. And I'm not sure if I can trust him here at Fenway Park, a hitter-friendly ballpark. I know the Red Sox lineup hasn't been the best, but they're going to play up against the Yankees, their biggest rival. This is always a fun series to watch. On the other side, Cutter Crawford didn't do very well in his last outing. 5 innings, 5 hits, 5 earned against the Royals in a 13-5 Red Sox loss. Both of these bullpens have been atrocious lately. Some of that due to injuries on both sides, but man, I think I would just rather take the plus money, getting plus 125 with the home team. If it's a 50-50 game, like I mentioned with that Cubs-Reds game, I'd rather have the plus money on my side. So I'm going to take a shot here with the home dog and the Boston Red Sox on the money line, which should be a pretty close game. Next up, we see the Seattle Mariners taking on the Texas Rangers. Marco Gonzalez and Dane Dunning are your projected starters. I like the Texas Rangers here in the first 5 innings. I don't trust this Rangers bullpen whatsoever, but against left-handed pitching at home this season, and in the last 30 days especially, the Rangers have been money. Look at the team OPS in the top 10 at number 8 with an .805 team OPS, Isolated power, even better, number 7 in the league in the last month. I think they get to Marco Gonzalez for a few runs early on, and Dane Dunning, I think, can give the Rangers 5 sharp innings. Like I said, I think the Rangers have a lead after 5, but when the bullpen makes its way into the game, I just can't trust Texas. They've had a lot of issues with their bullpen. In terms of projected WAR, they're near the bottom of the league, while the Mariners, one of the better bullpens in baseball this season. So I'm going to take the Texas Rangers in the first 5 innings on the money line. Next up, we see a Coors Field matchup between the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Colorado Rockies. Zach Gallen and Jose Urena are your starters. Now, Jose Urena has regressed quite a bit in his last few outings. The Rockies have lost each of the last 4 starts that he has made. That includes his last outing against the Diamondbacks, 6 innings, 7 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 home runs, 3 walks, and a 6-4 D-backs win. Now, Zach Gallen on the other side, he has actually pitched pretty well at Coors Field in his career. 24 innings pitched, I believe, in his career at Coors, and a sub-3 ERA. He already pitched there once this year, had a quality start, 6 innings, 3 earned runs. He gave up a homer, but 4 strikeouts in that one. He limited hard contact, and that's the big thing for Gallen this year. Although his barrel percentage is one of the weaker ones in terms of starting pitchers, the average exit velocity and hard hit percentage are well above average, so that's been able to give him some success. He's got a 3.12 ERA, a 7-2 record, and a nice start against the Pirates last time out. I think if Gallen's limiting the free passes, doesn't put a lot of guys on base via the walk and single, I think he'll be fine, but I do think he'll give up a home run or 2 in this one. So if he's getting burnt by 2 or 3 run home runs, that's where you get into trouble with Zach Gallen. I think he does his best to keep runners off base, gives up a solo shot or 2, and pitches a quality start here. I think the Diamondbacks can get to Jose Urena. I like the D-backs to win this game on the road. I'll take them on the money line. Next up, we see the Pittsburgh Pirates taking on the San Francisco Giants. Logan Webb going for the Giants. No official starter for the Buccos quite yet. Now, I really was impressed with Logan Webb in his last start against the Oakland A's. Not just because he only gave up 2 earned runs in 7 innings. That's great, but the 15-5 ground ball to fly ball ratio. Logan Webb is a very ground ball dependent pitcher. We've seen him struggle at times when those ground balls aren't there. When you saw against the Dodgers back on August 1st, a 10-10 ground ball fly ball ratio, 6 earned runs, a home run, 8 hits in that one in a Giants loss. And it was nice to see him bounce back and get those ground balls, get those double play opportunities for San Francisco. And I know the Oakland A's have a weaker lineup, but the Pittsburgh Pirates are 28th in team OPS, far worse than the Oakland A's in the last 30 days against right-handed pitching. So I think Pittsburgh's in trouble here offensively. I think Logan Webb has another good start, especially at a pitcher-friendly park in San Francisco. I like the Giants to win this game going away. I'm going to take the San Francisco Giants here on the run line. And in our final game of the night, we see the Minnesota Twins taking on the Los Angeles Angels. Dylan Bundy and Reed Detmers are your projected starters. I think the wrong team is favored here, although the Twins have the much better record. I'm going to take the Los Angeles Angels here as the home dog. Reed Detmers has been a completely different pitcher after he was brought down to the minor leagues and then brought back up to Major League competition. We've seen him throw a couple of really good outings, including his last start against the Mariners. 7 innings, 1 earned run, 7 strikeouts, and a 6-1 Angels win. The Angels have won 2 of the last 3 starts that Detmers has made. Those were against the Mariners and the Braves, so he's been able to go against some tough lineups. The Minnesota Twins, I'd much rather see them against a righty than a lefty. Against lefties in the last 30 days, not the strongest offensive numbers. Isolated power outside the top 10, team OPS outside the top 15. So I think Detmers has a good outing here. On the other side, Dylan Bundy making his return to Los Angeles, pitching against his former team. I don't really think he's going to pitch well in this spot. 6.33 ERA on the road this year. He's been inconsistent this season, giving up a lot of home runs recently as well. So I don't really trust him here. I don't think he should be favored. And I think the Los Angeles Angels here can back up Reed Detmers and get a win at home. So give me the Los Angeles Angels on the money line. And that's it. Those are the games for Saturday, August 13th. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my MLB best bets, you can find those at Pickdawgz Premium. Don't forget you can use the code AUG15, that's AUG15, to save 15% at checkout. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.